So let's test the add-to-do component. So for the add-to-do component, we want to assert if the input has focus and if the function is invoked to add a to-do, right? So if we go here and we refresh the page, we can see that the input has focus. So we're going to test that. So yeah, so let's get started. So we can add a new test. Say add to-do test yes, and close it. And just as before, we can specify the path using p source components test add to do test yes. And this still fail because we don't have a test yet, right? So let's scroll down here and we're going to create a helper function like before. But first let's import the components. So we can say import add to do from add to do as well. And we can say function render add to do. We're going to take in an amount that we're going to default to 0. Then going to create the props add to do, which is going to be an empty function. Same as toggle completed. And the to do's amount. Let's make sure it's right. And then we're going to render the component. And we're going to spread the props. And then let's return the same props. Let's make this prettier also. And let's save it. And then we should add our first test. So if the input should have focus on page load. So let's just scroll down here so we have space. Then we can say test input should have focus on page load. And we can just render the add to do component. And we can say to do input element and query it by the placeholder text. Oh yeah, let's just add screen get by placeholder text, and it's what needs to be done. And then we can expect the to do input element to what? To have focus. And our test should pass. So let's see if the user is able to type into the input. So we can say user is able to type into the input. And this is going to be async because we're going to use fire event. And let me just scroll down here so we can see what we're doing. We're just rendering the component and then we're saying input value to do item, and then we're querying the to do input element, placeholder text, what needs to be done, and then we're going to fire the event so we can change the input to do input element, and we're going to set target value to the input value. We need to pass this aside its own object. Yeah, so we can do an assertion on it. We can expect to do input element to have value. And what's the value? This is the input value, right? So our test should be passing. Let's save. So it wasn't that bad, right? So let's check if the user is able to submit to do. And if you remember, we just need to check if the function has been invoked because you're not testing the logic, right? I mean, you're testing some logic in theory, right? You know what I mean. The user is able to submit to do. This is going to be async. We're going to pluck the add to do from render add to do. Again, we're going to have an input value. That's a to do item. And again, let to do input element screen get by placeholder text. What needs to be done? We're going to fire a change event. Input element. And we're going to do the same. So target value, input value. And then we can fire an event that submit new input element, and let's assert. So add to have been called, and we can use times if you want to make sure it's just been called once and something weird isn't going on. We should save, and our test is passing. It's awesome.